Hi, my name's Rachel. I'm the homegrown gardener and welcome to my garden. Today is going to be our October garden tour and I'm really excited to show you around because there's so much new things happening in the garden. We've got lots of seeds germinating, lots of different things growing. We're going to be doing some harvesting, planting some seeds and also transplanting some tomatoes. So I hope you find it interesting. Along the side of the carport here I've got these planters and I'm going to be growing a mixture of things in here. You can see that we've got some beans that have come up that are going really well. So I'm going to be training these to grow up the trellis, and these are a potted bean. I've also transplanted out a tomato already into this one here, so we're going to have a couple of beans and a tomato. But to utilise the space down here in the bottom of the planter, last year I grew a couple of lettuces. One was a plain green, the other one was a red and green speckled, and as it went into summer they went to seeds, so I was able to collect quite a lot of seeds from the lettuce that I grew last year. So I'm going to just be planting a few of these today in the bottom of the planter. The seeds are quite small, so you don't need to put them very deep. Just going to be putting a few. I don't know what the germination rate on these is going to be like because I've collected myself and I'm quite new to seed collecting, so we'll just put a little dent in the soil here in the middle and we'll just put a very light covering over the top of the seeds. And because we're not going so deep, I can just do this with my hands. So I'm just going to sprinkle a few of these ones in this side. This is the red and green. We'll just cover this over lightly with some of the soil. And then on the other side I'm going to put a few of the plain green ones. So we'll be able to hopefully see in a few days what the germination is like on these lettuces. They were really mild flavoured lettuce and it was a great addition to our salads last year. So I'm excited to hopefully have some back this year without having to buy any additional seeds. I've got another one of these planters here, and over the summer I've been adding more and more organic material to this, lots of leaves and cuttings and things to help to improve the quality of the soil. I've also been adding eggshells because I'm going to be planting some tomatoes in here today, transplanting some little tomatoes that I've had grow inside, and we'll put a few of them into this pot. And the reason for the eggshells is tomatoes love calcium. Tomatoes love to have calcium in the soil. It really helps them to grow well, and it helps to amend the soil. So it's almost full with all of the organic matter. I've just been adding more layers and sort of turning it over every couple of days. But just to top it off, I'm going to add in a bit more topsoil, a bit more potting mix on top of this, and then we're going to go ahead and plant some tomatoes. So I think that's probably about enough. I'm just going to level it out a little bit. And we've got the trellis here behind, and as the tomatoes grow we can have them grow up the trellis for some support. So I'm just moistening the soil a bit to ensure that when the tomatoes go in that they have lots of rich moist soil to have their roots grow out into. So I've had these little cells that I've been growing them in, and these are great because when you put them into the ground they will just sort of decompose, and then the roots can grow through into the rest of the soil. I've grown a variety of different tomatoes. These are some large tomatoes. I've also got some cherry tomatoes there, and I'm going to be putting these across different areas of the garden because I love tomatoes in summer. So we're just going to very gently separate these cells and because of the watering, the cardboard has softened already. So we'll just separate them into individual cells like this. I'm going to put 2 tomatoes in here today. So I'm going to dig a nice deep hole. You can see here on the tomato there's actually really tiny little hairs growing up the tomato, and if you bury that in the ground, new roots will develop. So don't be afraid to bury your tomatoes when you're transplanting them quite deep, because it will help the root system develop. I'm just going to very gently break apart this cardboard planter that the seed's been growing in to give it a little bit of a head start in the breaking down process and ensure that those roots can spread out in the planter. I'm going to bury it nice and deep, like I said, so the planter is well below the soil level, and we'll just cover that back over like such and push it down. Okay. We'll give that a bit more water and we'll do the same thing with the other one. So again, we're just going to very gently break this apart a little bit, being careful not to disturb the root system too much, and then we will plant this in this section here. These tomato varieties are called large barred boar. They're an heirloom variety from Baker Creek, and they grow lovely full-sized red and green sort of marbled tomatoes that are really delicious. So I'm just covering this back over. This one's a little bit smaller, but it will grow up quickly now it's got the space and the room to develop. Here's the okra, and as you can see, it's recovered from the summer. It was looking a bit worse for wear earlier, but we've got some nice okra flowers forming. We've got some actual okra here as well, and in the other section of the garden I'm going to be harvesting some okra today. The in-ground okra is really quite big, so we're going to be harvesting that today. In some more containers here, the squash is looking really good. So this one is a yellow patty pan squash, and this one over here is like a green zucchini variety. So really happy with the way they're coming along. There's some flowers that are developing on those, so hopefully in not too long we'll have some squash. And a new plant for me, which I'm really excited about, is this little guy here, and this is actually ginger. So the root develops below the ground, of course, and this is your ginger plant. So we eat a lot of stir fries and Asian style dishes, so I'm really excited to be growing our own fresh organic ginger.